From the files of the unexplained, the whispers along the Verde River. In the heart of Arizona, where the high desert gives way to cottonwood trees and the waters of the Verde River cut a green path through the rugged landscape, lies the historic town of Camp Verde. Travelers often stop to admire the natural beauty, visit the old military fort, or explore the ancient ruins scattered throughout the valley. But those who stay long enough eventually hear the stories of unexplained lights, unseen footsteps, and whispers carried by the river long after the world has fallen asleep. Within the files of the unexplained lies the story of a wildlife photographer named Daniel Harper, who traveled to Camp Verde to spend several days documenting the area's historic landmarks and breathtaking scenery. His plans were simple: photograph the landscape during the day, relax beneath the stars at night. But Camp Verde had other plans. On his second evening, Daniel decided to walk along the Verde River after sunset. The air was cool, and the only sounds came from flowing water and the occasional rustling of leaves overhead. Then he heard something unexpected: voices. At first, he assumed another group of hikers was nearby, but the voices weren't coming from the trail. They were coming from the river itself. He stopped walking. The conversation continued. Several voices seemed to overlap, speaking softly in a language he couldn't understand. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the voices vanished. The following morning, Daniel asked a local cafe owner if anyone camped near the river at night. The woman paused. Then she asked him a simple question: did the voices sound close enough to touch? Daniel nodded. She smiled politely. You heard the whispers. According to local folklore, unexplained voices have been reported along the Verde River for generations. Some believe the phenomenon is connected to the ancient people who once called the valley home. Others believe the voices belong to soldiers who passed through the area when Camp Verde served as a military outpost during the 19th century. Daniel laughed the story off. Until the next night. Determined to find a logical explanation, he returned to the same location with a camera and audio recorder. For nearly an hour, nothing happened. Then a bright light appeared among the trees. Not a flashlight, not a campfire. A glowing orb no larger than a lantern drifted silently between the cottonwoods. Daniel raised his camera. The light disappeared. Moments later, the voices returned. This time, they were louder. He pressed the record button. The voices continued for nearly 30 seconds before suddenly stopping. The silence that followed was almost overwhelming. Back at his hotel, Daniel reviewed the recording. At first, he heard nothing but the river. Then, buried beneath the sound of moving water, a voice emerged. 3 words: "Come find us." The message sent a chill down his spine. The next day, he visited one of the area's historic sites and spent hours studying the history of Camp Verde. He learned about ancient settlements, military conflicts, and generations of people who had depended upon the river for survival. The Verde River had witnessed thousands of years of human history. Perhaps memories, like water, leave traces behind. Perhaps places remember the people who passed through them. Or perhaps there are moments when the boundary between yesterday and today becomes a little thinner. Daniel never discovered the source of the voices. But before leaving Camp Verde, he returned to the river one final time. He stood silently along the bank and listened. Nothing. No voices, no lights. Only the sound of flowing water. As he turned to leave, a breeze moved through the trees, and somewhere in the darkness, a voice whispered one final sentence: "Tell our story." He never returned to Camp Verde, but he kept that audio recording for the rest of his life. Whether it captured a supernatural encounter or simply played tricks on an exhausted traveler remains a mystery. But among the cottonwood trees and the ancient waters of the Verde River, there are still those who claim that the whispers never stopped. And so, another story finds its place within the files of the unexplained. Join us next time as we open another unexplained file. And thanks for listening, and be sure to hit the like and subscribe button.